Okay, welcome to the first tutorial in the series that will see you drawing the finger jointed die that you are currently viewing on the screen. Our goal will be to draw this and 3D model it and then actually cut it out on the laser and see if it fits together. So we're going to make this out of plywood eventually. So without further ado, let's get going. So this die that you see on the screen, it is 2 inches by 2 inches in size, and it's got obviously the 6 sides, and it's got these little finger joint connections that we're gonna draw, and well, in the end it'll just hold itself together. So where do we begin? Let's start a new file, which I've already started one here, but you would go up to File and New Design, and you would save it like I have, even though it's blank, so that you can constantly be saving and you won't lose any work. So mine's called LaserCube Tutorial. And I've got this blank space. So there's many ways to draw most things. So the question is, where should we start? And this is where I think we should start. So let's do this. First of all, we're going to just draw a regular 2-inch by 2-inch cube that we should already know how to do from the basics tutorials and the previous assignment. So let's do that. So we're just going to hit create a sketch. We're going to reference the top plane, which would be this one, and we're going to click that, and we're looking down now. So now we're just going to create a rectangle. It's a center point rectangle to keep us on the origin. We'll drag out and we'll select, or we'll punch in the box there 2, and we'll tab up, and 2 it is, and enter. And now we'll click the center and E for extrude on the keyboard and drag this up to 2. I will enter 2 in the dialog box here. Oh, I'm gonna grab the whole thing. There we go, 2, enter. So I now have a 2-inch by 2-inch cube, and I thought this was a good way to start because we can use this as reference as we draw the sides. We'll basically draw what we need to on this cube. So we're going to start with the top. We'll click the view cube here so we're aligned on the top, and we're going to create our first piece here. Now this is our first foray into multiple pieces, and in Fusion we call those components. So we're going to have 6 different components that will come together to make this cube. So we're going to start by making our first component, heading up to the top level here of our project, right clicking and creating new component. And a little dialog box comes up, and here you can name your component, and we'll just name ours top and push OK. And over on the right in the browser tree, or sorry, the left in the browser tree here, it says top, and that's our component. Now here's the key to components. When you are drawing anything to do with this component, the top, you must have this little radio button here selected. It says activate component. And that will ensure that all sketches and all bodies that you create while drawing this component are stored underneath this component. Currently there's just the origin under there if I expand it. The mistake that's made often by people who are new to this is they will start drawing, even though they've created components, they will start drawing with this activate component button on, and then all the bodies and sketches are not associated with the actual part itself. So we're going to go back and activate top like that, and now we're going to draw our first part. Now you can do a finger joint many ways. I've sort of pre-thought this, and the way I think we should do it is first we're going to draw on this surface right here. So click on the surface of the box we drew previously, or the cube we drew previously, and we're looking at it now. So even though, we haven't drawn anything, but we can see the previous cube. And if I go up here to the bodies, if I turn that off, it will disappear. And I can turn it back on. And the sketches, I can turn those off too. That's the previous cube we drew, and we're going to use it as reference. As I say, when I hover over it, you can see it highlights. So the first thing we're going to do is draw an outline. So click this 2-point rectangle. We'll grab this corner, and this will be the outline of our piece that we're making, the top piece. Now the next thing we're going to do is create a line. The line's going to be down the middle. So if I hover along this line, you can see I have an X. That means I'm referencing the line. It can see it. And now if I move far enough, it'll change to a triangle. That means I've found the middle. So I'm going to click there, and then I'm going to head down to the bottom here, and notice another triangle appears. Click there. I have a center line right down the middle of this. Now this is just a reference for me, this line, so I'm going to click it, regular mouse click. I'm going to push X on my keyboard, and notice it turns into a dashed line, which is also known as a construction line if you look at your sketch palette over here. I can also turn it on and off by picking it and clicking this little button over here. That would change it back to a normal line. Now a construction line is just that. It's only used for construction purposes, and it isn't actually part of the object in the sense that it won't be printed out, or in our case lasered out. So there it is. I'll need it for my next step. So my next step is I'm going to create my first receiver for a finger right here, and that receiver is going to be 3/4 wide. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to push S on my keyboard and bring up the shortcut menu, and in here I'm going to type OFF for offset. That's what I'm looking for, this offset. The one that's got 2 lines, not this one here. This is like a 3-dimensional offset. This is the one you want. So we'll click that, and then we're going to offset this line. And how far over is it going to be? Well, it's going to be 3/4 of an inch, and half of 3/4 would be 3/8 of an inch. But if that's tough, what you do is this. You go 0.75 for 3/4 divided by 2. And you'll find out Fusion can do math for you. Now it's figured it out. It's taken 0.75, which is 3/4, and divided it by 2. And we can push OK. So that's the line I want right there. And notice it's giving me the dimension. Now I'm going to offset the other way. S for shortcuts, OFF for offset, and click that one. Pick this line. That's my line that I picked. And now I'm going to pull it this way. Notice I get a negative sign because I'm headed this way. And again, we're going to go negative 0.75 divided by 2, enter. So now I have 0.75 divided by 2, 0.75 divided by 2, add them together, you get 0.75. So my next step is my thickness that I'm going to create is the thickness of the material we're going to be using for the finger joint. So I'm going to create another line that comes down here. I'm just going to draw it any old place. I'm going to hit L on my keyboard, or you can pick this up here. I'm going to hit L on my keyboard. Then I'm going to click to this line. Make sure you get an X, come across, make sure you get that 90-degree symbol right there that says box, or, well, it's a little box that says 90 degrees. That's good. And then we'll do another one down here. Well, actually, we won't do that. We'll just do one. Hit escape. Okay. That is not in the right place, that line. So what I'm going to do is push D on my keyboard. And notice my mouse cursor has something that looks like a little arrow and bars. That's supposed to look like dimensioning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this object here, the line, and I'm going to pick the edge of the cube. I'm going to drag to the right and click. And now I get to tell that line how far away it should be from the edge of the cube. And that line should be 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch away. Or if you don't know your decimal conversions, you can just type in 1/8, 1/8 of an inch. Push enter. There it is. Okay, so that line is now dimensioned, we call it, and constrained is another word we call it, so that it has to be 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Okay, now next step. We're going to trim these lines here because we don't need them. Notice I'm still dimensioning. If you look at my mouse cursor, I have to hit escape on my keyboard to get rid of that, and now I'm not dimensioning anymore. Up here we got some scissors. I'm going to pick them. That's trimming. We're going to trim this line. We're going to trim this line. It highlights what's going to happen when you hover over it. And now I can see that I just have this area here. That's good. I want that on 4 sides. So I could draw it 4 times, or I could head up under Create, and I could choose Circular Pattern. And it's misleading because you think it's going to make circles, but it doesn't. It makes patterns in a circular method. So we're going to pick the object we want. Now, if I click up here and hold and drag, oh, that's good to show you. Right now, that was supposed to be a selection tool, but it's just weird. So head over here under Select, and you can select in different ways. I like the window selection. So I can just drag and pick all these objects. And notice when I did that, it says over here, you pick 3, and that would be these 3 lines. The other way to pick them, if I cancel this, is to go in on there and hold shift while you individually pick all three. You have to hold shift to pick multiple things. Now I've got 3 objects. Okay, I need to pick a center point for rotation. So I select it, I run along this line here. I should be able to, or I'm going to have to go fix this in a second. There it is, center point right there. That's the center of my cube. And now it's making them here and here, but it's weird. And that's because I've only got a quantity of 3. I need 4. If I push, not 45, 4, push OK. I have 4 of them now. So I'm ready to go. So this is supposed to be cut away here and here and here. Remember, I've only made this sketch. This is 2-dimensional. It's not 3-dimensional yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick the center like that, and we are going to extrude by pushing E on the keyboard, and we are going to extrude it into our previously made cube, the distance that this material we're going to be using is, which is, and notice it's going to be a negative direction, negative 0.125. Enter. Okay, so there's our first side. That is the top side. And that is our first video. In the next video, we're actually going to make the bottom side and do some joinery. So there's our top side, all drawn. See you in the next video.